So there were 13 new cases of COVID were diagnosed in the 24 hours to 8 p.m. last night, bringing the total number of cases to 3,316. Of today's new cases, 2 are returned travellers in hotel quarantine and 1 is a known close contact of a previous overseas case, and they were isolating prior to their infectious period. So the 10 cases reported today are associated with the Crossroads Hotel and all live in southwestern Sydney. And of these, 3 attended the venue and 7 are close contacts of the cases. So we have a total of 23 cases have been associated with this cluster. Now, as you can imagine, the situation is evolving, and I apologise for us moving away from the standard numbers of the 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. daily. And so since 3 p.m. last night, we had an additional 7 cases that have been reported as linked to the hotel cluster, bringing the total number associated with the cluster to 28, and another case is under investigation. This includes 14 people who attended the hotel, and all the other cases are linked to these cases. So the new cases are a 40-year-old southwestern Sydney woman who attended the Crossroads Hotel on the 3rd of July, a 50-year-old Melbourne man who attended the Crossroads Hotel on the 3rd of July, a 30-year-old southwestern Sydney man who attended the Crossroads Hotel on the 3rd of July, 20-year-old southwestern Sydney woman who attended the Crossroads Hotel on the 3rd of July, a southwestern Sydney child who is a contact of the hotel case, a southwestern Sydney teenager who is a contact of the hotel case, and the 80-year-old southwestern Sydney man who is a content of the hotel case, and a 20-year-old southwestern Sydney man who is currently being interviewed by contact tracing experts. Clearly, this is showing that there has been a number of cases linked to the Crossroads Hotel on the 3rd of July. We have reached out to contact those people who are on the 3rd of July, but should you have been at that premise and not recorded your details at that time, we urge you to come forward and get tested, and please isolate yourself for 14 days. Even if you have a negative test, please remain in isolation for 14 days since that you left that hotel. For the period between, we've then extended the period calling everyone to isolate and come forward for testing for anyone who was at that hotel between the 3rd and the 10th when the hotel was closed for cleaning. It is essential that people come forward for testing. This will now enable us to understand the scope of spread associated with that facility, and remembering that there were other hotel staff who were positive who were working on other days. I'd particularly like to call out any members of the community who were at the hotel on the 9th of July, but also the 4th and 5th of July in particular. But we are urging anyone who was there between the 3rd and the 10th of July to self-isolate and get a test. And even if that test is negative, remain self-isolated for 14 days. One of the cases, the new cases, has also worked at the Casula Kmart on the 10th of July from 5 p.m. to midnight. And people were at that store at that time are urged to watch for symptoms and to self-isolate and get tested. Contact tracing is continuing for the staff and patrons, as I said, who are at the hotel between the 3rd and the 10th. There was also one of the cases visited the Preston's Lodge residential aged care facility during his infectious period, and no other cases have been identified at that facility, but as a precaution, the facility has been placed into lockdown. Investigations and contact tracing are occurring. One of the previously reported cases also attended the Picton Hotel and spent time in the gaming rooms on the 4th, 5th, 9th and 10th of July. And so all patrons and staff who were at the Picton Hotel on those dates are advised to self-isolate for 14 days since attending the hotel and present for testing.